Hey, this is your girl Chaka with your 40s are to buy the drinks. And I'm coming to you with another book review. Y'all gonna have to excuse the messy room. It's been a hell of a few weeks. Um, as you know, I told you before, I had gotten a new job. So I've been kind of on, I can't say hiatus because I wasn't trying to say hiatus, but I've been busy, and it's been crazy busy at that. But with that being said, um, I read this book. I got off Facebook, of course. You know, I love those little snippets or the first three chapters kind of engage you. This book I actually loved from beginning to end. It was intriguing, and although it had a little bit of erotica in it, it wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't over spiced. It had more love and romance than it had anything, and it was worth the read. It was called My Stepbrother, and let me see if I can find the writer's name. If I can't, I will make sure that I put it in the title, when I get a chance. But the book was rated 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I gave it 5 stars. Like I said, on the scale of 1 to 10, I gave this a 10. It was great. The book was of these two, well, Maya and Zane, who were the core couple. Maya and her mom were from Jamaica. They were black. And then Zane and his father, who was white, and his father was a billionaire. Maya's mom, on a business retreat, met Zane's dad at in a Vegas hotel and got to know each other. And 3 days later, they got married in Vegas and came home and sprung this on their kids. Zane, who had been traveling for the summer in Europe, he went to Princeton and he was going into his second year, and the summer was coming to an end. So Maya, her mom, were moving in with his dad, and his dad had basically told him that he had told him over the phone, basically the same as Maya, her mom, told her over the phone. But while they were, getting used to this new lifestyle, Maya and her mom was moving into the father's home, and he told her, they talked. They were spending time with each other, and so she was like, I see why my mom married this man in 3 days. He's very charismatic and he's handsome. Let's hope his son didn't hit the lottery gene pool. The parents was Caroline and Charles. So during the very beginning of the book, she still hadn't met the stepbrother. She was 18, just graduating from high school, and he was 19. And like I said, he was finishing his first year. He had went to have part of his summer in Europe with friends. So he was on his way back while they were moving into his house. And his attitude was, well, you know what, my dad usually he gets involved quickly and uninvolved very quickly. So it wasn't a big deal for him. Um, so when she met the brother, she was like, dang, he hit the lottery gene pool 100%. And he was very handsome. And she thought he was extremely sexy. And they had a lot of sexual tension in their first meeting. And the father had asked him to come help unpack some of the boxes. He found out that her mother, His mother died when he was young. Maya's father died when she was young. So they had that in common. The first particular so-called family dinner was he had just texted some jump off that he would go see from time to time and told her he would see her at a certain time. He had just gotten back in town and he would come through and see her or whatever. And then they were having dinner, and Caroline, the mom, says, maybe you should take her out just to meet some people. And she was like, don't do that, because both of them in their heads were like sitting there going, well, once this marriage that never works in Vegas ends, I can actually date this person because this is not my real family. But the daughter had already stated, I'm not crossing that line unless my mother is unhappy. But during their dinner, she made a little smart comment about, let's see how long this marriage lasts. And the daughter got annoyed with the mother because she could feel, like I said, sexual tension in herself. And he had been thinking some really bad thoughts his own self. So she ended up he ended up feeling like, oh, she was stoic. She held her emotions down. Like, unlike me, you can tell what I'm thinking by my facial expressions. Well, she kept a neutral tone, attitude, and face, so he couldn't tell what was going on with her. But she knew that where he was going that night was to a booty call, and she was like, I'm not about to stop his booty call. Go ahead, do your thing. And so the mother actually put her on punishment that night, and she was like, fine, it ain't but a couple of weeks before I start NYU. I'm not staying here for school. I'm gonna go away. He goes back to Princeton. We're good. I just need to stay away from him so I won't act on my lust. And he decided, yeah, I'm gonna turn up the charm. Since you want to act like a robot, I'm gonna show you how this is done. And so they end up going their separate ways. She ended up going to NYU. He went to Princeton. And, they were an hour away from each other, but she was trying to not get involved. But the summer, while he was trying to turn up the charm, their first initial weeks together, for some odd reason, he ended up falling for her. Not just, oh, I can sleep with this girl, she's sexy. I ain't never tried with a black girl. I'm about to get this try in. That was his original thought, and he fell for it. And he was shocked he fell for her. So, what he did was, she was trying to squash her feelings for him, so she started dating. And so one of the guys that she dated, even though she knew she didn't feel any sparks or anything, like, he took her on a date the first week. He ended up taking her on a real date. And the date ended up being marred by his jump off. She came and talked smack about this woman, and he couldn't stop it. Like, he couldn't get a hold and control the situation. But he ended up taking her on this really great date, and they kissed, and she was like, it set every alarm off in her body, and she was shocked. So she went on another date after the whole debacle with the jump off and the restaurant, and she was like, I'm gonna treat you like a stepbrother, and that's that. So she decided she was going on a date, and she wore this really over the top dress, and he told the mother, he had started calling her mother mom, and he was like, you see that dress, that whole fit, you might want to stop it. And so the mother made her change, and she was like, you know what you're doing, it's trying to mess up my date. Well, he followed her to the restaurant with the guy and pulled her out of the date. They end up like having a real heated moment in the car, and that's when I think he felt more for her. And so she was so mad at him. She was like, I want to go have a drink. You know, you don't really piss me off. It's not funny what you just did to me. And so he took her to a, a house party because they were still underage, but they knew where like the house parties that had liquor in the house. And so they were drinking and she got drunk. Let's just say she got drunk. She wasn't tipsy, she was drunk. And the guy who she had had the original date with showed up. They were getting hot and heavy. And anyway, and he ended up catching the guy and her in the room in the midst of about to have sex or whatever. And he grabbed her and took her home. And the jump off was like, "Oh my God, you're in love with her, and that you look, that's your sister." And he was like, "Yeah, no." And so he took her and got her in the car, and the guy was like, "She said, yeah." And he said, "She drunk, you idiot. She can't say yeah." And so it just turned out to be an issue. So he went to take care of her to get her, nurse her through her hangover and being drunk. And he took her to his special place with his mom, who passed when he was young, um, and told him that he told her that he loved her. And she said she didn't love him, even though she did. She said, "This is just lust. And by the time, things get back to normal, you'll be off to the next girl." And he was like, "Don't tell me what I feel. I know what I know, and I'm in love with you." And she tried to say she wasn't, and it hurt him. And then he had a car accident and he pushed her away. And he ended up being with the jump off and told the jump off that they could be boyfriend and girlfriend, even though he didn't want her. So a couple of weeks go by after he had the car accident and broke his leg. She went away for school first, and he wouldn't go up to the school with her and the parents. And then he went to Princeton, and he was sulking, and he had roommates, and his roommates wanted to know what was going on, and he finally told them he cared about this girl and he wanted to be with her, and she told him that he didn't she didn't feel the same way, and he was heartbroken. And they told him that girl didn't, no, it's more to it, maybe you should go and see her. And he said, "No, I bet not." And so she started dating the guy who she had the date with, Daniel, just so she could get over him. And then like a few months went past, and her friends and roommates decided to force her to go up to Princeton and see him, because she told them the truth, that he had told me he loved me and I didn't tell him back. And and as much as she liked Daniel, he wasn't really the one that set any alarms off in her. It was just, I'm doing this so I can get over the person I really love, and it wasn't working. So he ended up he ended up seeing her, following her on Instagram, and one of their mutual friends from that party, he went to Princeton as well, and he seen her, and so she posted a quick pic of him and the guy and said, "Oh, I came to Princeton to find my prince, only kissed the frog." And then she posted it, and he seen that she was there, and he felt like, wow, it's funny how you couldn't show up for me. And so it hurt her real, real bad. And he was hurt. And so he deleted her Instagram, and he started going out with one of these girls that he had met at a club, and he was just trying to get himself away from the situation. And one night, the mutual friend was best friends with the guy she was dating, and they went up to the school, and then they had like this real passionate kiss, but they couldn't talk because he was with a lady and she was with Daniel, and all their friends was in this circle. And so she told him, it was like the day before Thanksgiving or something, and he was like, we can talk when I see you tomorrow at home. And he didn't come home. Then he started making excuses after excuses, trying to dull the hurt because he had really loved her. And so, like a year and a half, 2 years had went past, and by then, the parents were celebrating their second anniversary. So the parents told him, "We're going on a family trip to Japan, and there is no excuse you can make. You got to go." And so he thought, oh, "Okay, it's been enough time. My heart stopped feeling how I felt. Maybe I can see her now without being stressed." And it was a lot. He ended up getting to Japan and trying to just be close. She was really angry with him because he walked away and she loved him. And so he was like, well, I'm just going to be her friend, although my heart is still there. And he didn't understand how that went. So I felt so sorry for this kid. He actually put his heart on the line, and now he's 21, and this chick who was supposed to be a stepsister has invaded his heart, and he didn't know how to handle it. So he was trying to be close with her, and they end up making up. They both like went out to a couple of clubs in Japan, and they went. She liked those comics. They call them mangas or whatever. I don't know. Don't get me twisted. But he found out one of the comics and stories that she read. One of the characters was signing books, so he took her, and then they went to a Osen, which is like a hot spring type hotel or something, and they had that final conversation. And he told her, he said, I loved you. And she said, well, I did love you. And when you walked away and never said anything, I stopped. And he said, that wasn't love. It was just lust, like you originally said. You couldn't have loved me because you wouldn't have been able to walk away. I've continued to love you. And so she, in her heart, knew that she was lying to him. But what she felt like was, and she had called her friends, she didn't want to hurt the guy. She had been dating for the last year and a half, 2 years, who had been kind of getting her through the heartache of that. And so she ended up talking to her friends, and her friends was like, oh, he ran away. And one of them said he ran away, so too bad for him. If he still loved you, he should have acted like it. He overheard the conversation with the friends, and one of the friends told her, if you going to stay with Daniel, it's going to hurt him in the end because you really don't love him. And that's not fair to him. It's not fair to you to hold yourself for him. And so she decided to hold on to Daniel and not tell him that she still loved him. and he ended up going back to the house that the parents had rented for their family trip. And one of her dreams, or one of her fantasies, was always to go to Scotland and feed perennial goats. Uh, some stupid, some stupid stuff. But he ended up renting a castle so they can go, but they were going to go together. But the moment he overheard the conversation with her friends and the fact that she told him she was staying with the boyfriend, he invited the jump off and his two friends. So she invited her girls and the boyfriend. So it ended up being, instead of just them two, it ended up being basically 10 people, so 5 couples all together. And the first night that her boyfriend was there, she didn't want to have sex with him. So they got there in the daytime. His friends came first. And he said, "You know that girl still love you, right?" And he was like, so he said he thought it was, he thought he knew something. He said, but come to find out, the friend was just feeding off basically his senses, which she did love him. And he tried to explain it to him. Said, "Listen, the way she look at you and she smile when she think no one else is looking, she still loves you." And he said that I can't go by that. She said she's staying with her dude, and that's that. Well, the friend Jade went to her and said, "Maya, you need to tell him the truth. I know you still love him," and told her why he knew this. So the both of them still were kind of struggling. So the first night when the friends were there, she her friends was like, "Well, what is there to do?" Well, the friends wanted to jump off because she was rude and mean. And she was calling the girl out her name. She kept calling her Maria, and she knew her name. It was just her way of pissing her off. So they went to the beach, and she could see him on the beach and everything. And so he ended up looking at her, and she seen that her and the boyfriend, her and Daniel, were behind these rocks at the beach making out. And so when she came back around, she went and sat next to him, and he said, "Oh, it looked like you was having a good time too." And she said, "Nothing happened." And he said, "It's not my business if it did happen. That's your boyfriend. That's who you chose." And so she asked him, why did he bring, what's her name? Sarah? Cena. Sienna or something stupid. And he said, "To make you jealous. I knew you didn't like her." And she thought it was weird that he actually was really truthful. And it was funny, but during that night, they all kind of was getting along. So her and her girls went into a room with some drinks, and they were kind of getting drunk and buzzed up. And they all started talking about like who was hooking up, and she was in her head saying, "Yeah, I'm hooking up with him, but I really want to be with Zane, but I made my choice, and this is horrible that I'm doing this." So at the end of the night, she went to go find her man, and he was in the room with Sienna. So Daniel and Sienna started having sex months before because she hated her that bad. She knew that Zane loved her. And so Sienna found out that she was dating Daniel, and she started messing around with him at a party that all of them she had went to some weeks before, months before, and they had started hooking up periodically. And so he was in the library at a castle, And Maya walked past and her moaning, and she thought it was one of her girlfriends. So she was trying to bust her because the girlfriend used to do it to her. And lo and behold, it was your man. So she ended up walking away, and that's when she told Daniel, I feel like an idiot. I only wanted to be with him because I felt like he had stayed with me during that whole time I was in love with you. And he said, well, it's okay, and she said, no, you're out here trying to comfort me, but I did something wrong. I didn't follow my heart. I was letting my feelings and letting someone else's emotion be the case. And it was just sad when I was looking at it. It was sad, but they ended up getting together and they got engaged. Towards the end, the parents understood what was going on, but the husband turned to the wife and he was like, you owe me, you lose the bet. And they were like, what bet? And so they do a flashback of the first 2 years in the very beginning when the father was saying, listen, they have not grown up like brother and sister. These are essentially just two teenagers. And when I seen what my son, when I was looking at my son when he was staring at your daughter today, nothing innocent was going on in his head. And I thought that was hilarious because, like you say, people always think your parents don't pay attention. His dad was like, I know my son, and that was not. He wasn't thinking anything pure. He wasn't thinking anything sisterly. So it ended up being, it was a good read. I mean, all the way to the end, from the beginning to the end, I was shocked because usually by the fourth or fifth chapter, if it started getting boring, I will stop. But it was kind of on pace. It had a really great tone, and it just showed this relationship and the relationships around them and how they were woven into each other's lives. And it ended up being really good. So it was called My Stepbrother. It's on Fox Novels. I will put all of the information in the description. I gave it a 10. And again, this is Chaka, and y'all know what to do. Your 40s are about the drinks. Have a good one, ladies.